The target structures for this lecture are both, neither, and either. We're going to target 3 structures in this lecture, so make sure you have your pen and paper ready to take notes. The reason I'm putting 3 structures together is because they are very, very related, so it makes sense to learn them all together at once. So the first thing I want to bring your attention to is the pronunciation of neither and either. They have alternative pronunciations that you might hear native speakers using. You can say neither or neither. These are the 2 alternatives. And you can say either or either. Slightly different. These are the alternative pronunciations, just to let you know. Let's go to the example sentences and the meaning for each structure. Have a look at these 3 examples. Both books are really interesting. I highly recommend them. Neither book is boring. You can borrow either book. The words in bold are to talk about 2 things or people. In this case, 2 books. That's why I grouped these 3 structures together, because all of them talk about 2 things or 2 people. That's why they're so related. They're always talking about 2 things or 2 people. So just remember that. Let's look at each one in more detail. Let's start with both. So going back to the example that we saw earlier, both books are really interesting. I highly recommend them. Both is positive and means that the 2 books are really interesting. So that's both. Both is positive. Just remember that. It's always talking about 2 things. So imagine I see 2 cars that I like. I can say both cars are really beautiful. That means the 2 cars are beautiful. Both is similar to all. We use all to talk about many, many things. If I see 10 cars that are beautiful, I can say all the cars are beautiful. But if there are just 2, all sounds strange because there are not that many, just 2. So we use both. Both cars are beautiful. So both is positive. Let's look at the next one, neither. So going back to the original example, neither book is boring. Neither is negative and means that the 2 books aren't boring. So neither, as I said, is negative. Again, it's always talking about 2 things or 2 people. Always. And it's a negative word, just like not or never. So it's a negative. Remember, the N in neither signifies negative. That's a good way to remember. So imagine now I have 2 more cars. These cars are very old and ugly. I can say, I like neither car. I like neither car. What does this mean? It means I don't like the cars. There are 2 cars and I don't like any of them. I like neither car. Neither is a negative, so it means I don't like them. You see? So it always negates the words that you use in the sentence. Now, let's look at either in more detail. You can borrow either book. Either is a choice of the two and means that you can borrow this one or this one. Again, either is to talk about two things or two people. This time we're talking about a choice between two things. You can choose this one or this one. Not both. This one or this one. Either. So either means a choice. Just choose one. This one or this one. So if I say to my daughter, you can have either spaghetti or pizza for dinner. Can you hear that? Choose either spaghetti or pizza for dinner. I'm giving her a choice. Choose either this one or this one. So either is always a choice between two things. Now, let's look at the structures for these words. There are a few structures, so again, make sure you have your pen and paper ready to take notes. Here is the first one. We can use both, neither, or either plus a noun. Here are some examples. Both movies were so boring that we stopped watching after 20 minutes. So remember, both is positive. It's talking about two things. So they watched two movies and both of them were boring. The next example reads, neither car is expensive. Now remember, neither is negative, so it means the cars are both cheap. So expensive means lots of money, but because we use the negative neither, it means both cars are cheap. Neither car is expensive. And the last example, John says, which city shall we visit for our trip? Madrid or Barcelona? Fiona replies, either city is fantastic. I don't mind. So Fiona is saying, between Madrid and Barcelona, she doesn't mind either. She can choose either Madrid or Barcelona. She doesn't mind one or the other. Now, here is the next structure. We can say both of, neither of, or either of, plus the. So when you use the, you can say any noun, the dog, or the camera, or the chair. Or you can use a pronoun, for example, he, she, or it. Or you can use a possessive. A possessive is something that belongs to someone. For example, Alan's or Mary's. So look at these examples to make everything clearer. Both of these dogs belong to my uncle. So you can see the structure, both of plus these. These is a pronoun. Dogs belong to my uncle. So both of these dogs means there are two dogs and they both belong to my uncle. The next one, teacher says, which one of you two wrote this on the board? And the two students reply, neither of us. It was another boy. So the structure neither of plus the pronoun us. And finally, are either of Tina's sisters tall like her? So the structure we have either of plus the possessive Tina's. So the questioner is asking, out of Tina's two sisters, are any of them tall like her? Now the next structure is a bit more simple, but it's very, very useful. The structure is both something plus and something. For example, both China and India are becoming more and more powerful. So you can see we've used both before the two things we're mentioning. I mentioned China and India. These are the two things I'm talking about. And remember, both is positive. The second example says, I play both football and rugby. So again, the two things I'm mentioning are football and rugby. This structure is very common in English, and it's really, really good for making yourself sound more fluent and upgrading your English. The next one is very, very similar. The structure is neither something plus nor something. So it's similar to both and, but this one is negative. Remember, neither is a negative form. So look at the first example. Neither Jane nor Sally came to the party last night. I was disappointed. So this means Jane and Sally didn't come to the party. So remember, it's negative. So neither means they didn't come. Nor is basically the negative version of or. And the second example says, for me, baseball is neither fun nor exciting. So remember, neither is negative. That means for me, baseball isn't fun and it isn't exciting. So I don't like baseball. And finally, either something plus or something. So this is similar to the previous one, neither nor, but this is positive. So the husband says, what shall we do today? The wife replies, we can either visit my parents or go and watch a movie. So remember, either is a choice of two things. The choice is visit my parents or watch a movie. And the second example says, I think either Germany or Brazil will win the World Cup. So the two choices that I'm making are Germany or Brazil. One of them will win the World Cup, in my opinion. There we go, both, neither, and either. It was quite a long lecture, lots of information to take in, but if you learn these three structures, you'll upgrade your English very, very quickly and significantly. So move on to the next lecture. I'll see you there.